Poor Freya baby. What are you doing? No. So Freya just got back from the vet this morning. She had surgery yesterday. She's okay. But she got a prophylactic gastropexy, which is basically where they staple the stomach to the sides of the body cavity. In large dogs, especially in Great Danes. It also happens in Dobermans, in German Shepherds, just very large dogs where they have a deep chest that curves up to a shorter waist. There's a high propensity for them to get a stomach bloat, and then the stomach will flip over. Here's the waters. There's right here. Oh no, oh goodness, sweet girl. And the stomach twisting is an emergency, a medical emergency. It cuts off a lot of blood supply, and basically the dog can die within like 2 hours if their stomach ends up flipping over. So the gastropexy is a prophylactic procedure, meaning you do it before it happens so that hopefully it doesn't occur. It also happens to be the same procedure they will perform if the dog gets the stomach torsion. But unfortunately we don't have a vet within an hour of our house, an emergency vet. So if she were to have stomach upset, she eats really fast, late at night, she might be screwed. So we did go ahead with this procedure. It's highly recommended by veterinarians, and she'll be okay. She just really wanted to go outside, but you're on bed rest for 2 weeks. I'm so sorry. Oh. So unfortunately, you won't be seeing a lot of Freya outside with me in the garden these next couple weeks because she's stuck inside. But I can go outside, and I wanted to show you guys how amazing the front yard garden looks because I didn't show you a couple days ago when I did the garden tour. Oh no. I do have a sad little sunflower that needs some water real quick. But it's just one little guy, so. There you go, little buddy. I'll let that soak in and then come back and give him some more. Y'all, my squash up here is insane. Look at all of this growth in this front yard garden. And it's mostly all growing in this sand. This dirt. So unfortunately, due to the heat, because I have no shade cloth over, obviously, the front of my house, I am getting some sunburned leaves on some of the squash. But fortunately, because the house here is on the east side, these plants do get partial shade for most of the afternoon, and that seems to help them a lot. So this is some obvious sunburning. Look at those crispy leaves. And honestly, I think it's partly the fault of this wood chip mulch because it gets so warm during the day, and where these leaves just touch down, they just burn to an absolute crisp. But the plant is otherwise extremely healthy. I think this is a Tramontino squash. This might also be a Tramontino. And I have blooms that I've been fertilizing every morning. This is some sort of melon. That's another squash, but I'm not sure which kind. And then I have a melon up here as well. If y'all remember from my planting video of this front yard, I didn't label anything. If there were any labels, I have since forgotten them and they've been lost in the mulch. So we're just gonna have to wait and see which plants these are. I do think I know the identity of one plant though. Well, let me first say that this guy right here is a yellow squash. I have already picked one yellow squash from him, and see, he's got another one coming up. This was actually the first squash I harvested of the year out of this front yard garden plant, which was super cool. But this little guy has white blooms, and it looks a lot to me like a birdhouse gourd shape. Look at that. He's all fuzzy and soft. So I think this squash is going to be the one birdhouse squash that I grow this year. And it's both a blessing and a curse. Once I had most of my birdhouse gourd squashes die, I was actually a little excited because then I was like, well, if I have no poisonous squashes growing in my yard, then they can cross-pollinate at will and I can save seeds. But if this one squash plant actually turns out to be a birdhouse gourd, I will not be able to save seeds from any of my squash, I don't think. I do not think that my front yard garden is far enough away from my bean plot or my squashes over here in the in-ground garden. Now generally I would say that mostly ants and small flying bugs pollinate my squash, but I also do have a beehive and I have bees and I've seen them mostly on the sunflowers but elsewhere as well, so I'm just not trusting that they're not going a couple hundred yards that away on their way through my entire property. And I don't want to grow a hybrid poisonous squash next year. All right, I had to come back inside. So I live near the Rio Grande River. It's a hop, skip, and a jump away from my house. And every year when they turn the river on, because our river does not run year round here in the desert, there is just this huge influx of biting midges, also called like biting gnats. No-see-ums is what I most know them as. And they swarm here. I basically cannot go outside without a long sleeve shirt, a full, like one of those little mosquito net hats, and I just get eaten alive. I don't know if you can see all the red marks on my neck. That's probably from me scratching. They're so itchy though, and they're tiny, and I just don't know what to do about them. I've lived here for a few years now, and they're just miserable for a couple weeks once the river starts running. They do need, so only the females feed on blood, and they need blood to be able to reproduce. So as far as I can remember, they're really bad for a few weeks and then they slow down a bit, and I think we get another wave later on in the summer. But I'm just at my wit's end on what to do about these things. I don't mind wearing a long sleeve shirt and a mosquito net outside. The mask does kind of get in my way when I'm working because I can't see as well, especially under the shade cloth because it's darker. The main issue though is my chickens. My chickens go nuts with these gnats, and I don't know what I want to use to protect them. I know that I can get a chemical fly spray at my local feed store, which I'm still contemplating. But I have looked up a couple natural remedies, one of which being vanilla extract. So I just put some vanilla extract with a splash of water in this spray bottle this morning, and I went out and sprayed the chickens' combs and their feet and everywhere else that the gnats really bite, because they don't get through the feathers a whole lot. And it seemed to help a little bit. They're most active in the mornings, like in dawn and dusk, really bad at dusk. But even just going outside right now, I got bit a couple times, a bunch on my face. And if anyone has any suggestions, I am begging you for some help, because it just makes it impossible to do any work outside. And then obviously I can't make videos. I could, I guess. I would prefer not to make videos with my entire face covered in a mosquito net mask. So, oh my goodness. So for now, especially for today, my options are a bit limited on what I can show you guys besides the front yard garden. They aren't too bad outside right now, but for some reason, even though it's almost 100 degrees and slightly breezy, I still get attacked when I go outside. They particularly love me. I don't know why. But I'll try this vanilla extract for a few days, and if that doesn't work, I will absolutely probably go to the feed store to get some chemical, not fly spray obviously, but some sort of bug spray for my chickens that's safe for use on them. It's not ideal. I do try and grow organically, but the health and happiness of my chickens means a lot more to me than them getting eaten alive for weeks on end by these gnats, because I know what it feels like. But what I've done for now is just draped the shade, a spare shade cloth I have over their coop. They tend to stay in their coop during the day to get away from the gnats and then go under the coop as well, which I have an aerated coop with large holes so that obviously it's not sweltering in there. It doesn't help with the gnats much, but I put this shade cloth on this morning and it seems to at least mitigate the amount of gnats that want to go through there. They seem to be a little bit happier, not as miserable. I'm worried it might be a little too hot, but I'll just have to check it throughout the day and see how that's coming along. It's not really an option for me to cover all of the open spots of the coop with mesh, because they still have to get out and go get water and everything, so the door is left open and then the gnats can just go in there. But for now, that's what I've got, and I am looking for suggestions on what I can do, mostly for the chickens. I'm quite used to it and I can protect myself, but they can't. So that's what I'm concerned about, if anyone has any suggestions on these things. They're not common in my area because we live in a desert, but because I live in a river valley, they do reproduce and breed here. So they are very common to this strip of river valley, or the river valley itself that I live in. So I don't have a lot of people to go to see what they do. And then, I mean, a lot of people just use off, and I prefer to stay away from DEET as much as possible. So that's my story today, guys. A Freya update, a front yard garden update, and a bug update. I wish I could show you more. I want to be out in the garden with y'all, but there's not a whole lot to show. Even right now, I just did the tour a couple days ago. Not much has changed. I don't have any fancy ripening things. Oh wait, I do. I did pick this rondinese squash the other day. I had told you guys about it in the garden tour, how it's a perfect just little single serving squash variety. And this is so cute. I'm so excited. This tastes so good. And you can either stuff it or just saute it as is. It's delicious. But I'm going to start cooking dinner, and I will find a way to do videos without having my face completely covered, hopefully. And please, if you guys have any suggestions for these biting gnats, drop them in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and share, and I will catch you on the next one.